Hello and welcome to Fineprint, the double scrutiny of a story and its coverage with me, Amir Arafat. But first, as always, we start with a quick check of the big print. Big print goes.
Assessing the G20 outcome. G20 agrees $1,100 billion to fight crisis. G20 increases IMF firepower and boosts funds. What the $1 trillion pledge really costs. So, what was achieved at the G20 meeting?
To help us track the fine print, we're joined from London by Professor Rodney Shakespeare, visiting professor of binary economics at Trisakti University, Jakarta, Indonesia. From Paris, we're joined by Max Keiser, financial journalist, Huffington Post blogger. Gentlemen, welcome to the show, but straight to our first pick. Let's go straight to the London Summit 2009, the website Global Plan for Recovery and Reform. It goes, also, this is happening against a backdrop of IMF predicting global economic contraction for 2009, as much as 1%. OECD expecting world economy to shrink in 2009, and little evidence the G20 meeting will produce a deal. These were predictions before, but now let's take a look at once again back at London Summit 2009 website, and let's see what the website has to say. We, the leaders of a group of 20, met in London on April 2nd, 2009. This is, of course, the communique. We face the greatest challenge to the world economy in modern times, a crisis which has deepened since we last met. A global crisis requires a global solution. We have today, therefore, pledged to do whatever is necessary to restore confidence, growth, and jobs, so on and so forth. But on the pledges, the host of the meeting, British Prime Minister Gordon Brown, had more. Let's take a look at that.
There are no quick fixes, but with the 6 pledges that we make today, we can shorten the recession and we can save jobs. First of all, for the first time, we have come together to set principles to reform the global banking system. This is a comprehensive programme of measures that includes, for the first time, bringing the shadow banking system, including hedge funds, within the global regulatory net. We have agreed that international accounting standards will have to be set. We will regulate credit rating agencies in order to remove their conflicts of interest. We have agreed that there will be an end to tax havens that do not transfer information on request. The banking secrecy of the past must come to an end. The Organisation of Economic Cooperation and Development are this afternoon publishing a list of tax havens that are non-compliant and where action must immediately be taken. And we have agreed tough standards and sanctions for use against those who don't come into line in the future.
Professor Shakespeare, 6 pledges, the outcome of the London meeting. Your comments.
Think of a car. It begins to veer, and then it swerves, and it crashes. And along comes the G20 with a can of paint and puts on a coat. That's the good news. The bad news is that an astronomical scam continues. That scam is that the banking system creates the money out of nothing and lends it at interest for all the wrong reasons and in the wrong ways, building up more and more debt. And that process has been enhanced as a result of the decisions taken by the G20. Yes, it's a good idea they're getting rid of or lessening the evils of the tax havens. But in a very fundamental way, they have changed nothing, they understand nothing, the situation continues, and it will get worse. Thank you.
Gordon Brown had more on the specifics. Let's take another listen. All right. I'm not really sure if we're getting that clip.
G20 countries have announced and are now implementing the largest macroeconomic stimulus the world has ever seen. We are in the middle of an unprecedented fiscal expansion, which will, by the end of next year, amount to an injection of $5 trillion into our economies. And it will save or create millions of jobs in a period where we must combat unemployment. In addition to the dramatic interest rate cuts, our central banks have pledged to maintain expansionary policies, as we state in the communiqué, expansionary policies as long as they are needed, using the full range of options available to them. But we have also agreed today additional resources of $1 trillion that are available to the world economy through the International Monetary Fund and other institutions. This includes $250 billion from special drawing rights, the reserve currency of the IMF, drawing rights that will be issued to countries who are part of the International Monetary Fund. This is available to all IMF members, and at the same time, we will treble the resources of the International Monetary Fund itself with up to an additional $500 billion. Together, these actions give us confidence that the global economy can return to trend growth even faster than the International Monetary Fund is now predicting.
Max, so many zeros out there. How would you break down the numbers?
Well, you know, this G20 meeting that we just saw was really, it's kind of a meeting of Gamblers Anonymous. These guys get together and they hope that if they follow some kind of steps and principles and logic that they're going to overcome their gambling addiction. But they're not going to overcome their gambling addiction. And the numbers being thrown around, 5 trillion here and 1 trillion there, sounds like a lot of money, except when you consider that banks like JP Morgan have $90 trillion worth of derivatives on their books. There's hundreds of trillions of dollars worth of derivatives on various banks' books around the world, where the counterparties are in, as Gordon Brown called it, the shadow banking system, which is right now totally unaccounted for. And when all is said and done, I'm afraid the banks are going to have to admit that many of the world's banks are completely insolvent, and the jobless number that Gordon Brown referred to is only going to go higher in the short, medium term. We're talking about depression-level unemployment in countries like the UK and the US. And it's amazing that in the UK, the rhetoric coming out of Gordon Brown and his cabinet is that it's okay to take money from the IMF. I'm sure the people in Britain are loving to hear this. They remember back in the 1970s when Britain was a basket case, taking money from the IMF. And now it's okay to take money from the IMF. How shameful is Gordon Brown? It's absurd. The people in Britain should run him out on a rail. It's absurd. He's sold them short to the IMF and some global institution. The UK doesn't want to join the Eurozone, but they're going to sell out to the IMF. How sick is that? Gordon Brown, step down.
All right, for more on that, plus what the $1 trillion pledge really costs, an article appearing on BBC's website, Professor Shakespeare.